Hello, everyone, and welcome in to a long-running tradition here. Davis Mattek and Rich Hribar with you. We have been doing this show, Reebs, as a podcast for I said year 5 earlier. I think this might be year 6 actually of doing this program.
Yeah, it's been a while.
If you're new, Reebs and I every Friday we do effectively like our super contest picks. If we were in the super contest, we pick our 5 favorite games against the spread in the NFL. We don't do the Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night games because we want people to be able to listen to this all the way until Sunday. If you are a podcast listener to this, it is on a new podcast feed. A link to that is in the description of this. If you just Google Davis Mattek Fantasy Football Podcast or Grinding the Variance, you will find it. Reebs, we are here on a Friday morning. We are celebrating a Kansas City Chiefs victory. Game of football happened. The game of football is happening.
An overhit. We had
an overhit. I mean, that is beautiful.
Week 1, like last year in week 1, did we have any overs?
Xavier Worthy scored 2 25-yard touchdowns. Almost had another one if he was a little bit taller. So I got to say, this morning, buddy, I am feeling pretty good about myself and about my ability to prognosticate football games.
It was fun, yeah. I had a couple questions yesterday during my live stream about playing Worthy, and I was like, listen, if you're not going to play him when Hollywood's out, like when
are you going to play him?
When are you going to play him? You got to take the shot. And then you got you get there in the 2 touchdowns. We'll see what happens when Hollywood comes back. But that's always the thesis behind the play. It was just run into a big play. And we got a blown coverage. And still though, the turbo boosters on the
reverse.
The end-around. Yeah, the reverse, the end-around. It was.
I mean, you could see the moment where he realized he could score. He turns up
right when he saw Creed Humphrey 12 yards downfield in Roquan Smith's bag, like he was like, I might as well just turn it up.
Absolutely beautiful stuff. So again, the format of the show, Reebs goes first, I go second. We pick our 5 favorite games against the spread in, I suppose, ascending order of favorability. 5 would be our least favorite. 1 will be our most favorite. A lot of the times, Rich and I will have the same number 1 selection, although our 2, I don't know, what would you call them? Our pet teams, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, 2 absolutely spread wagons over the years, played each other, and they played already. Reebs, I will turn it over to you for your first pick of 2024 on the show, your 5th favorite pick against the spread.
All right, I think I'm going to come out. I don't know how hot it is early on though, but I'm going to start with the Jets plus the points against the 49ers. So week 1, we're gonna throw some darts around the board here, kind of looking for the unveiling of what these teams are. But I think the Jets in particular are catching the 49ers like kind of at the most optimal time, and they're good. I think they represent a good matchup too. Obviously, you have the Robert Saleh versus Kyle Shanahan angle here too. If anyone knows how to kind of slow down what Kyle Shanahan wants to do, hopefully it would be Robert Saleh. But I also look at the Jets these last 2 years, worst quarterback situation in the NFL, and like they were game like a lot of the time. I mean, to win 7 games with that quarterback group last year, he deserves like a purple badge of honor, a purple heart for whatever the equivalent is for a head coach. Because you saw him kind of go through the motions last year where Robert Saleh looked like he was dying on the inside every time they asked him a question about Zach Wilson. But, Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk just coming back. They didn't really do anything in the preseason. The 49ers aren't going to have Dre Greenlaw in this game. Hufunga's probably going to be on limited snaps. And if the Jets can just get a lead in this game, like they represent kind of a problem. Purdy faced 4 teams last year that were in the top 10 in passing, defenses in those games. He completed 57.9% of his passes, only 7.3 yards per pass attempt. In the other games, completed 70% of his passes for 9.6 yards per pass attempt. And if you can just get Purdy trailing, that's like when you have him like kind of in his bag. Like when you have Purdy have to pass the 49ers out of a situation. He only has 137 dropbacks trailing in the second half in his career, but he goes to 29th in the NFL completion rate, 29th in touchdown rate, and 37th in interception rate. So, playing with the lead, that's kind of like the bread and butter for this team. So I'm going to take the 4.5. I don't know if they outright win this game. I would have felt better about them maybe picking them as like an outright live dog if, Trent Williams wasn't playing. But
or if Ayuk wasn't playing.
Yeah, but I'm going to take the 4.5. I think they can keep it at least within 3 here.
All right, so this one's not on my list. I do like it. I'll tell you 2 reasons why I like it. The first is the way that the 2024 Jets is going to play. It's going to be a lot of one-score games, a lot of 3-point games, a lot of 4-point games. Aaron Rodgers, this dude plays so unbelievably slow. You'd think for a guy as good as Aaron Rodgers that he would want to just be like, get up to the line of scrimmage, do my quick check, get the ball snapped, get more yards. It's like the exact opposite of how he plays. And he actually has gotten slower over the years. The final year with the Green Bay Packers, they were 19th in the NFL in total plays. They had 100 fewer plays than the Buccaneers, the Chargers, Cardinals, Commanders, the Eagles, who were top 5 in that season. Rodgers is always snapping the ball with double zeros on the clock. It's very annoying. The defense is very good. I mean, Purdy's results. You want to talk about Purdy against the Browns last year, 12 for 27, 125 yards and a pick. Purdy against the Vikings, 21 of 30, 272 yards, 2 picks. 2 picks against the Bengals the next week because what was synonymous in that 3-game losing stretch. They were down at halftime in all of those games, and they were not able to quarterback their way out. So this one's not on my list, mostly because really I just kind of want to see proof of concept for the Jets offense. Honestly, like the proof of concept probably is enough just knowing how good Rodgers has been. Like even half of 2022 Rodgers probably has these Jets as a 10-win team, but not on my list. All right. My number 5. This one might be on your list. This one might be a little bit too risky for you, actually. But I am taking the Denver Broncos on the road plus 6 points against the Seattle Seahawks. So the first thing is, I don't believe that Bo Nix is your standard rookie quarterback who is going to come in, try and do too much, make the awful interception.
Yeah, 'cause he's 30 years old.
Because he's 30 years old. I
No,
literally
I'm
was
sorry.
I was having this argument with Sammy Reeve, my partner, and we are in a survivor contest together, Sammy and I. And he was like, everyone's gonna do the Bengals, right? Everyone's gonna do the Bengals. Like, let's not just take the chalk yacht. And I'm like, guys, there's one mortal certainty we know here in week 1, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals are going to beat the Patriots. There's no need to do the Seahawks. And one of the things I brought up to Sammy was Nix has been the same guy for the last 700 pass attempts he's thrown. Sean Payton is a very good coach. The Seahawks, I think, are a good team. I don't think this line is particularly disrespectful. It's a reason why it's 5. If it was 6.5, I think it would be maybe a little bit higher. But the Seahawks were a middling team in yards per play last year, actually a little bit worse than yards per play. And their run defense is pretty good, but their pass defense is not near as solid. So I think this is one where it's more like 4.5 probably is the number. I took the over on the Broncos regular season win total at 5.5.
I don't have this one because, I'm not going to bet on a rookie quarterback on the road in week
Correct.
1. But I will say that I do like it from a top-down perspective just because I think Bo Nix is going to keep the Denver Broncos offense on schedule a lot more than they did last year. I mean, you look at the preseason, 34 dropbacks. I mean, definitely we're not, preseason small sample stuff, but he didn't take a sack and he didn't throw an interception. Last year when Denver took a sack on a drive, they were 26th in points per drive. When they did not take a sack on a drive, they were 15th in points per drive. Like, I still think Sean Payton can coach offense. So just being able to stay on script a little bit better and avoid negative plays, I think Bo Nix will improve this team naturally. So I don't mind it. It's just, I don't have any of the rookie QBs on my card. I had a trivia question. Let me see if you can get this. For anyone in the chat can get it real quick. Not to eat up the whole clock here, everyone's answers. So when was the last number 1 overall rookie quarterback pick to win outright in week 1?
I'm gonna guess it's not Stafford. Maybe Luck. Maybe Luck. Maybe Baker.
You gotta go way back, man.
Go way back.
You gotta go back to 2002. It was David Carr.
David Carr. My God, the expansion Texans won
in
their
the first
game.
game, the first game in history. So Caleb's gonna be Caleb will be the third favorite that group because we've had a couple favorites. Lawrence was favored actually in his first start against a miserable Texans
I was
team,
going to say the Texans because
and they lost.
I took them in Survivor. I took the Jaguars in Survivor in that game.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I mean, Caleb obviously is in a different spot than previous number one overall picks, but there have been a few favorites mixed in that road, so it'd be interesting. I thought about maybe mixing in like the Titans plus 4.5, but I can't do it.
I can't. That one, I mean, that one is going to be fascinating, but that one is also not on my list.
Yeah, I could do it.
What is your number 4?
This is where I've got the Bengals, and it's just because the number's so big. But I mean, and we don't know.
This was my 3.
Okay, and we don't know like what's going on at Chase, and they might not even need Chase in this game, right? It's just this Patriots team is just an outright transition. They're letting us know they're in a transition. Cole Strange isn't going to play. The offensive line's terrible. The one thing about the Patriots coming into the year where you were kind of just like, well, they got a good defense. Well, now Christian Barmore is dealing with this blood clot situation, hopefully wishing him the best. They trade away Matthew Judon. So now they've got questions there too as well. And then when Burrow was healthy last year, right before he hurt his wrist, like the Bengals were like playing their best football. And when we saw a healthy version of Burrow. So I don't like the point total here really, but like that's why I have it at 4. And we've got to I feel a lot better than on my top 3 games here than this one. But this is just where I have it slotted. I'm still going to short the Patriots early in the season because I just think they're going to be that bad.
I think they are going to be terrible. I mean, so the part of the reason why it's my 3 is the Patriots defense was good last year, 4.7 yards per play. I mean, they were as good of a defense as the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't generate as many turnovers, but they were, roughly per play as good as the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And it literally did not matter. They got blown out so many times. They got blown out. I mean, imagine losing 34-0 to the Saints. 38-3 to the Cowboys. And I am much more optimistic on the Patriots this season and long term than you. We got in some arguments about this, during fantasy football season. But like Jacoby Brissett is coming in and playing like completely.
He's a patsy.
He's a sacrificial lamb, man. They're putting him out there. He's going to play really bad for like 3 weeks so that basically the staff can point and be like, we're putting Drake May in there because you guys saw how bad it was when Drake May is not in. The offensive line, I mean, I feel like all Nick Rudman and Thorman have tweeted about for the last month is how bad the Patriots offensive line is and how they they're not trying the right combinations of those players. Yeah. So that was my number 3. I feel, and also I expect the Bengals to be better running this year than they historically have been with Burrow. Cause I think Moss and Brown is like a pretty solid 1-2 punch. Like Zach Moss last season. And I think Zach Moss is a pretty mid running back, but he was better in like every metric than Joe Mixon for rushing, which definitely matters when you have a spread at 8.5 and not just at 6.5.
Scheme fit, the transition coming from the Colts where he had all shotgun runs. It's all fluid transition for Zach Moss. Yeah, I did take a Chase Brown bet for you in week 1. I took Chase Brown's longest rush over 10.5 yards to make, just because, I wanted to be on board and share some of the joy that because I work with Ray and Ray loves Chase Brown. I come on shows with you love Chase Brown. So I wanted to be part of the rooting for Chase Brown this weekend.
Of the experience.
Yeah,
absolutely. So my next, you're probably going to hate this one too, I'm going to guess, but I'm going to take my number 4 is the Minnesota Vikings on the road. Kind of depends on where you can get this. Like you can get them -1. You can get them, I believe there's a pick 'em at bet 365, but it doesn't matter. I would take this one. I take the Vikings to 2.5. 2 things going on here. One of my favorite stats of the offseason, Nick Mullins, who's played exclusively in the McShanny offenses, has an 8.0 YPA for his career. My supposition is that Sam Darnold is probably better than Nick Mullins, or at least close, right? At least a facsimile of undrafted free agent Nick Mullins. Addison is healthy. Jefferson is healthy. Aaron Jones is an upgrade on Cam Akers, Alexander Madison, the run game, the zone block run game. I mean, we just saw how effective I mean, Reeves, you say this all the time. He was the best running back in the NFL for like the last 6 games
Yeah,
last year.
the
He
last
was he
5
was
weeks.
awesome. That stuff matters. And the Giants last year were dead last in the NFL in yard differential, 30th in point differential. They were 30th in the NFL in points scored. Like, this is a bad team with a bad offensive line, a bad defense, bad corners, who has one transcendent playmaker. And I mean, I think Malik Neighbors does literally make them like Neighbors is probably worth what do you think, like 2 or 3 points to a spread for the Giants, especially compared to the replacement level. I think Neighbors is going to do well for fantasy in this game and stuff. But
I was going to ask how much of Neighbors are you playing in DFS, because this will probably be the cheapest he ever is.
I'm probably going to play him in cash. I think I'm probably.
I think you have to as price point play him in cash.
Yeah, and I've been taking him in the battle royales on Underdog and all that stuff. Like, I think he's just a total, and I think Jefferson is a smash too. But basically, I mean, I just think the Vikings, like 1 through 53 head coach, and I think Daboll's an all right coach, like an above average coach, but I think KOC is like probably a great coach, great offensive coach. I mean, I don't know too much about him being a leader of men, but the Minnesota Vikings on the road against the Giants is my number 4.
Yeah, I don't have this one either. I mean, I'm not mad at it. It's just this is just the game I'm just gonna go in and hope my receivers for DFS smash, because it's betting on Darnold, betting on Daniel Jones, 2 things I don't really want to be involved in. So
Sam Darnold on the road in New York. What if the ghosts find him, dude?
I don't know if the ghosts find him. I mean, Daboll, I will say 2 years ago, at least coaxed out the best version of Daniel Jones we've seen. And I think that's going to be the game plan again. He's literally going to be like, hey, you have one read. It's Malik Neighbors or run. Like,
if it works, I'll be wrong. I
don't hate it though. I think the Vikings are absolutely a better team than the Giants. Like, if Kirk Cousins is playing in this game, this spread is what?
4.
At least 3.
Yeah.
You might at least 2.5 because of home field maybe, but like, I mean, the Vikings are a better team. They have just a lot more talent, so I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it is, and it's also like I'm also kind of just betting against Daniel Jones finding that form again too. Like, my evaluation of Daniel Jones is that it's reached a level where it's not findable, and maybe I'll be wrong. I'm going to be wrong about a lot of these picks. Spoiler alert. This is a free show. I'm just telling you what I'm betting and what I like. I'm going to be wrong about a lot of this stuff. It is what it is, Reeves. All right. That was my 4. I did my 3.
You did your 3, yeah.
I did my 3. My 3 was the Bengals.
Yeah, my 3 is the Lions. I'm just going to stick with Dan Campbell. He's made me a lot of money. I'm going to keep putting my money in Dan Campbell's hands. Engineer gets longest rush.
This is the most fascinating game of the week. I don't have this one, but I was hoping you would take one side or the other.
Yeah, and I was on the Dan Campbell side last year when everyone in the playoffs was picking the Rams to upset them, because from a betting stance, Dan Campbell's going to try to win me the football game, and Sean McVay is going to
try not to lose it.
Is going to do college. If for a lot of people that are on this, because it's on YouTube for the first time, I do not like to bet on McVay, and I like to bet on Kyle Shanahan, because those guys, as great a coach as they are, from a game theory stance, like when you put money in their hands, like they're doing suboptimal things. And Dan Campbell is the complete opposite. I mean, since Dan Campbell's been the head coach of the Lions, he's number 1 in covering the spread. But I also like this from a matchup stance, because I'm concerned about this Rams defense for sure. I mean, obviously when you lose Aaron Donald, it's a big deal. And they were just low in pressure rate last year. I mean, they were 16th in pressure rate with Aaron Donald on the field last year, 23rd in sack rate. You're counting on 2 rookies. Rookies we hope are good. We feel positive momentum, but you're asking,
they traded their defensive captain 11 days before the start of the season. They traded their defensive captain. I mean, again, coming to me for defensive stuff, like maybe this is not a big deal. Maybe Ernest Jones was bad.
He's an off-ball linebacker. I mean, off-ball linebackers in today's
trading your captain 11 days before the season is crazy, I think.
But the reason I keep bringing up the pressure stuff though on Aaron Donald is why it matters here, because for a lot of first-time listeners too. So a lot of people always talk about the Jared Goff, like home indoor stuff. I don't care about it. I've been doing this. I've been writing up matchups for a decade. The thing that you care about with Jared Goff is disruption. Like, he's a quarterback that when you move him off his spot, like, he falls apart. So if you're coming in with already concerns that I have concerns that how much can you pressure Jared Goff, I just, like I said, it's an ideal situation for him. Last year when these 2 teams played, Jared Goff hit a season high in yards per pass attempt. He had a season high in completion rate. When the Rams didn't pressure Jared Goff, mind you, they had Aaron Donald. He was 19 of 19 passing in that game for 13 yards per pass attempt. I mean, if they're just not able to generate pressure, I just don't see how they can win this game. And now they don't have to win it; they just have to cover. You know, I'm looking for the points here, but I think that also when you look at the other Rams, the Rams 2 years ago failed, right? Like they underperformed the year Stafford got hurt. They were starting Baker Mayfield, John Wolford at one point. Who was the dude they played against the Chiefs in Kansas City?
Bryce Perkins.
Bryce Perkins, yeah. And they played a last place schedule last year, but the Rams were 2-7 as an underdog last year. Like they did not punch up. They took advantage of that last place schedule. I think this is a team, as much as I believe in McVay, and they're not going to completely bottom out though. I do think the Rams take a step back this year from where they were last year. A lot of moving parts defensively as well. So I'm just going to keep betting on the Lions and Dan Campbell. That's it.
This is neither here nor there, but I've been wanting to talk about this on a show since I read this theory. Ethan Sherwood-Strauss wrote this great piece a couple weeks ago about the Lions, about going for it on fourth down. And he did note how it's so funny that the Lions are kind of the poster boy for the fourth down team, because Jared Goff is like almost the worst quarterback for it, because he can't ever do that 1 minute of, the 10 seconds of magic where he scrambles and gets the first down. I mean, how many times did we see that literally just last night with Mahomes and Lamar bailing their teams out on third?
Think of how many like trick plays the Lions run in those spots too. Like they're throwing to Penei Sewell on fourth down and like
they're having to do crazy stuff to get 3 yards, because if Jared Goff has 4 yards of daylight,
there is one thing, one concern I have though, and let me run this by you before week one. So Dan Campbell, like if you look at, I'm trying to think, what's the site Ben Baldwin works for?
538.
Is it 538? They did a thing where it showed like all the coaches, how many points they add to like a team by going for it on fourth downs, use of timeouts. And Dan Campbell has been number one, but so they've had the worst field goal kicker situation the past 2 years. They're dead last in field goal rate of kicks made over 50 yards. They signed Jake Bates. The internet tried to cancel Dan Campbell with the way they lost in the playoffs last year. Do you think our fourth down god is going to feel some of that heat and kick more field goals this year?
Well, they did it to Staley.
The internet did cancel Brandon Staley. Do you think because they tried to cancel Dan Campbell for the way the playoffs went last year, and they signed Jake Bates? Are we going to see them not be as aggressive?
I don't think so. I think
he's our king.
I think no chance, because it seems like all of the guys buy in. It seems just like the whole team is totally bought in, and that feels like it's like, oh, you can't go to your locker room and be like, guys, we're kicking the field goal here after making your whole personality going for it on fourth downs. I just the point that I agreed with was, you would think that the team that would be so aggressive for it on fourth down would be the RPO team, where it's like you get the quarterback on the move to his strong hand, you get him on his move to the right. You have, I mean, basically the play that won the Super Bowl, right? The read option with the running back, you roll to the right, you've got the receiver ahead of you. If the defender goes with the receiver, you run. If the defender comes to you, you pass. And it's like, well, Jared Goff like literally can't do that play. It's like he's just like incapable of doing it. All right, that was your 3. We might not have the same 2 or 1. My 1 is a spoiler alert, high spice, Thai food level spice that is going to make you sick. But what is your 2?
I wonder if you got the Panthers on your card. I was waiting.
No, I'm not that spicy. Not that spicy.
I 4.5. I at least crossed my mind to fade a Dennis Allen coach team giving 4.5 to anybody. But my 2 is the Texans.
This was also my 2.
Okay, yeah, my 2 is the Texans. I just think the Texans are that team that it's easy to buy into all the trajectory you're projecting. Last year, they make the playoffs. CJ Stroud has this great season, but think of the context where they had this great season. CJ Stroud had Nico Collins and Tank Dell on the field together for only 34% of his dropbacks. He had the most frequently used offensive line combination the Texans used last year was on the field for 20% of his snaps. We're getting the offensive line back and healthy. We add Joe Mixon. We add Stephon Diggs. No matter how you feel about Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, because they are very polarizing players, or at least thought of as maybe not as good as maybe the public thinks they are. They're upgrades. They're going to make this team better. And then defensively, I love all the moves this team made. I mean, adding Danielle Hunter, especially in this particular game, which is I like them, because I think the softest spot of the Colts offensive line are their 2 tackles. And I just think that from an edge rush with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, they're going to cause some problems in this game.
The Texans are better at every spot.
Yeah, I think their defense is going to be
every
good.
Spot. Yeah, the defense is going to be good.
I think it's going to be legitimately good this year. Like, that's where they take like the biggest stride. Year 2 is, I think, defensively, because I think a lot of us we understand like the offense is going to be good, but I think their defense is legitimately going to be really good this year. And so I'm just taking them. I think I'm all for the Anthony Richardson experience, but my thing about from a Anthony Richardson, from a fantasy stance, you're going to get the fantasy points, but from an offensive consistency stance, it's going to be kind of a frustrating ride. Like, when everything works for the Colts, you're going to be like, oh my God, how does anyone stop this team? But then they're going to have like 2 or 3 possessions a game, like in a row, where you're just like, this is the worst offense in the NFL. Like, because I mean, the down to down passing consistency.
I was going to say, first down run, Jonathan Taylor for 2 yards. Second down, Richardson misses downs in the flat. It's 3rd and 8. Richardson rolls out to his right, tries to hit A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell ran the wrong route. The ball hits the turf. It's like, yeah. No, the Colts do have a very good offensive line. So I guess maybe
the interior. I said the tackles. The tackles are where it is. I mean, you got a 32-year-old Braden Smith on one side, and the left tackle Bernard Raymond like played okay last year. But you're talking Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly. Like, the interior is what makes that really stand out and be good.
Yes. So my thought. Also, I'd like to toss this one to you. I think that basically the Texans are going to end up being the story of the season. That like it's just all going to be CJ Stroud throws for 5,000 yards. You know, basically like they try and get Stroud the MVP. Like, we were talking about this for fantasy stuff. The Chiefs might not really be pushing it. I mean, we kind of saw that last night. They really weren't pushing it. Like, they're gonna be fun. They're gonna do their stuff. But it's not going to be a circus show. It's not going to be a
Bobby Slowick is good. Like, we need to have like a preseason disclaimer for the Texans. And maybe we should do this for like a lot of fantasy teams. I saw like Matt Harmon tweeting about like, hey, be prepared. Matt Collins is going to play more snaps than any of you guys want. Bobby Slowick is going to run on early downs more than you guys, anyone wants him to, because they've got Tank Dell, they've got all these receivers that were drafted high, right? And they've got Stroud, but Bobby Slowick is going to run more than any of us want him to. And
Tank Dell
have to be ready for it.
Tank Dell is going to have 65% route participation in this game.
Yeah, and also the Colts have the longest streak in the NFL of not winning in the season opener, 0-9-1. And last year they were 3-8 as an underdog, 6-0 as a favorite. So all these things. I mean, and it's a shorter line because of the road game, but because they played them tough both games without Richardson. Well, Richardson played a half in the first game, but
I'm buying the Texans on the ascendancy, and I'm very pro Richardson conceptually, but when it comes time to start betting money on games, I'm like, Richardson has started 17 games since high school. He has a lot left to learn. He's very raw. He is going to make mistakes that CJ Stroud is not going to make. Steichen, I think, is going to mitigate a ton of those mistakes, obviously. Like, he's going to put Richardson in positions to succeed. But you don't have to do nearly as much of that mitigation for the Texans. In fact, CJ Stroud kind of bails PFF Bobby out, really, if you think about it. Like, PFF Bobby kind of does the Shanahan thing where
that's where he's from.
That's where he's from. I mean, he just runs way too much on early downs. Like, he runs on Barrett was tweeting some of the stats out about how much, and Warren, your compatriot, did a bunch.
And we talked about it all during the season last year, and he basically lost them that Panthers game. Everyone remember they lost to the Panthers on the road.
It is the funniest thing to remember. The Panthers won a game last year. Who was it against? And you remember it was against the Houston Texans. Yeah.
The one time Panthers got the victory lap taking Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. One Sunday of joy.
All right, there we go. That was number 2.
Your 2?
That was both of our number 2. All right, your number 1. I in fact, not only do I think we're gonna have a different one, I think there is a chance that we are on opposite sides of the same game here with number one.
Really?
I think there's a
Well,
chance.
what a tease. Oh, I've
Salty
got the
you?
Dolphins.
Okay, no. So the Dolphins didn't make my list because
Alright,
I
so we're
guess
good.
because I'm a coward. Really, what it is, and I'll let you do your spiel about the stats before we get into it. But I'll tell you why they didn't make my list. Basically, I'm worried that the ball numbers are right about Trevor Lawrence. That is why he didn't make my list. I'm worried that the people who told us Trevor Lawrence is actually great, it's his receiver's fault, it's his coach's fault. You know, I mean, his first season, he had maybe the worst head coach in NFL history. There was
Did.
a Baldwin.
Yeah, where does
Baldwin,
Herb rank on the list?
I
Who
think
was
he's the
the
worst.
what about
I think
Tom Sula? Remember Tom Sula for the
I do
49ers?
remember Tom Sula with the 49ers. I gotta think Urban is the worst though. Because not only was Urban bad, but it was also
Well,
a
he was a thief. He
sideshow.
was an outright thief, though. Like,
Yeah,
he had no intention
awful.
of ever doing that job well. I think, like, a guy like Tom Sula was actually trying to do well.
Yes, Tom Sula was definitely trying, but actually, I believe the aforementioned Ben Baldwin. Maybe it was Ben Solak. I
Who
gotta
was
do
the
better.
Falcons? You Bobby Petrino that left everyone notes in their locker room? Who, like, just quit and, like, left everyone notes?
Wow. Yeah,
And
that's
then
before Bobby Petrino is before my time.
also another legitimate bet. He was Urban Meyer before Urban Meyer because he came from college, took the
Came from
bag,
college.
and then, like, didn't he run away with, like, some underage girl, like, on a motorcycle or
Yes,
something?
yes.
And
No,
that's,
and
like,
he
kinda
got
what
in
Herb
a
did. Herb got caught after the Thursday night game, you know?
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But if you
Petrino
remove
paved the way for Herb.
all of the wide receiver drops and like ones where it's not his fault, Trevor Lawrence was like 4th in EPA per play by quarterbacks last year or something. All of this is to say your side is, I'm sure, right. I just like aren't you worried? I am
I hear
worried the
you.
ball numbers are right about Trevor
I'm
Lawrence.
worried about
That's
the
all.
Dolphins defense, but I am just betting the Dolphins in this spot historically. The Dolphins have the most unfair home field advantage in the NFL, and I can't believe they're allowed to continue to get away with this. And there's like conspiracy videos on it and everything, but since they renovated their stadium and they make the opponent play in the sun while they in the shade the
Well, they're
entire
in the
game,
shade.
since they renovated their stadium, they have the league best record against the spread in home early kickoffs. They're 10-3 in those games against the spread under Mike McDaniel, 7-1 with Tua and Mike McDaniel starting because there's a couple games like Teddy and one with Skylar Thompson mixed in there as well. So I just bet this spot when the Dolphins are in this spot where they're at home, early kick. They wear their white jerseys. They're completely aware of this. They wear their white jerseys. They make the opponent wear their dark uniforms. They're insane. They score a ton of points. They average like 37 points per game too with McDaniel and Tua in these games. There's a 70-point burger in there mixed in, but I'm just gonna blind bet the Dolphins in this spot because it's been profitable. Same thing with Dan Campbell. Like
I was gonna say this probably should have been higher on mine.
I'm just taking it.
This should have made my list. It's like the bet Denver at home, their
But
first home game of the season or
it's
whatever.
like an on paper breakdown. Like there are some things that concern me. I'm just betting the spot. This is a bet the spot for me. So again, what was your disclaimer? Not financial advice.
Yeah, not financial advice. This is a free program. We are breaking down what we think and what we are doing with our own dollars. You can chase, you can fade. We will never be charging you.
But I always
For
look at
this program.
the Dolphins and these home early kicks, especially earlier in the year when it's hot. It's supposed to be 90 degrees on Sunday, so to be like 120 heat index on the Jaguars sideline. But it is these spots, they absolutely just have shredded in these spots. I think from DFS, it's hard because like you don't get any free squares to the Dolphins anymore in DFS. I think Achan's a little underpriced, but you can never just onslaught the Dolphins now because you just are out of money. But Dolphins and DFS.
Yeah, what's your week 1 prognostication on the A-Chain Mostert right backfield split?
I like if I'm going to play Achan, I actually like the idea of stacking Achan with Tua because I do believe that he's going to be used as a pass catcher.
Yeah,
I do believe that part of it. So I like stacking them. I like that being unique because Achan's gonna be the most popular running back in terms of ownership on both sides.
no, Rachaad White will be more than him on DK, I bet, but
You
it'll
think
be
so?
close.
No,
It'll
no
be
one
close.
likes Rachaad White.
Everyone on DraftKings
No one's
likes
clicking
Rachaad
Rachaad
White. You know what? Also, I did have this thought too. Maybe this is stupid. But I did think, well, Jackson, they're in Florida. They can handle the heat. But that might be stupid.
But you got one team it's gonna be 30 degrees cooler on their sideline than the other team.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there was the people have been bringing this point up that the Broncos game where Achane had 1 billion yards and Mostert smash and everything is people said, well, that never would have happened if the Broncos got to, drink water and be in the shade or whatever.
The Broncos are another team early in the year have really wild home splits because teams early in the season without conditioning, like going to Mile High,
Is miserable.
like they have like a real home field advantage early in the year. They're another team that has kind of weird splits like that as well. They've just been a really bad team.
All right. Well, are you ready to guess?
I mean, I like Rachaad White too. I just feel like the public doesn't like clicking his name.
No, I promise you. I'm pretty deep into the DFS slate because I did a show yesterday with Jacob. I'm very confident that Rachaad White is going to be piled in this week. They're against a rookie quarterback. Like
that's my favorite game stack, though. That's my favorite game stack for sure, though. Is Commanders Bucks.
Mike Evans, Rachaad White,
McLaurin's real cheap. You get Daniels.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker will be pretty
owned. Walker's gonna be high owned. He'll be like top 3 or 4. The projections have Jonathan Taylor highly owned, but I think that's gonna be down. I think it's gonna be lower than what early projections.
People are gonna play Richardson, and they're not gonna play him together.
Yeah.
Richardson's
gonna be popular. Also, I think the way the money works out because we don't have usually by the time we get to week 1, because the pricing's out like 6 weeks in advance. We run into a running back that just luck boxed into like super cheap opportunity. And we kind of don't really have one of those guys this year that's like a smash, like an outright smash. Like you see like Hubbard is popping in like Sims because he's relatively cheap from a projection standpoint. Like how excited are you to play like Hubbard and like a ceiling outcome? And like then you've got guys like Dowdle, like you got to take some risk there, but we haven't really run into that cheap running back. So I think that running back like won't be as paid up for in week 1.
Well, there's Yoshi Boss though. There's Yoshi Boss and Ertz, which allows everyone to kind of spend.
Well, I like AD Mitchell as the punt receiver more than Yoshi Boss. How many passes the Bengals going to throw? I have no problems he's man. Don't get me wrong.
And T Higgins is not practicing. That they just announced that as we went on the air.
Well, if we get there and if neither guy's playing, then obviously you just lock him in. At that
I think Chase is a lock to play. I think. But dude,
there are my receiver list. When I initially did my first list, and then you whittle it down. You got to get to the core. And my initial receivers were like I had like 16 wide receivers on my initial list this week as like values.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, how am I gonna cut this down? And but my running backs was a lot smaller. It's easier to get down.
Yeah, it's pretty much just Achane and KW3 for me right now.
As core plays?
Yes, as like stone core plays. I'll probably get to some more guys, but I might do some weird stuff that allows me to just play the stone chalk at running back. Okay. Do you want to guess my number 1? I mean, you'll be able to guess.
Oh yeah, we didn't even do it. We were out here talking about DFS. Yeah, I want to hear it. There's levels of spice. I was promised high levels of spice.
Not only did the Arizona Cardinals cover on the road,
I actually almost had this on my list.
They win outright against the Buffalo Bills. My belief is that Kyler Murray has had such a weird stop and start career that basically the perception and the Call of Duty and all this, I think the perception of Kyler Murray is very far away from what he's been when he's been healthy and when he's had competent wide receivers. I think obviously the best example of this is 2021. He completes 70% of his passes for 7.9 adjusted yards per attempt. He ran for 423 yards and 5 touchdowns. The year before, he ran for 819 yards and 11 touchdowns. He has a quarterback, or he has a offensive coordinator who was kind of the toast of the league when he got the Arizona job. I thought the Gannon hire was bad. I actually think what they were able to put together with that total dog shit roster before Kyler was healthy last year.
Good hire.
Yeah, Petzing was a good hire. Gannon, I mean, we'll see. But I'm viewing, I think that is at least directionally good. Is 11 personnel of Marvin Harrison Jr., Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, and James Conner. I mean, that's got to be top 10 in football, probably, and easily the best that Kyler has ever had. I mean, if you look at the 2021 season where he was very good, if you look at their 11 personnel, AJ Green was very prominently involved in that season. Christian Kirk, Zach Ertz, 33-year-old Zach Ertz was
the horizontal
prominently
rate
involved.
is back this year, baby.
It's so back for the Washington Commanders. Basically, I'm saying I kind of think it's an all-time buy low opportunity for the year. I would not surprise me if at the end, and I've said this before, I think the Cardinals can win that division. Obviously, that seems insane right now because that division is so good. I'm a real Kyler guy. And yeah, obviously this is a problem, but the Bills are a very weird team, Reeves, because they went all in last year. And now they've had to do a bunch of weird cap machination stuff. Obviously, Matt Milano.
Well, this is the first year that Josh Allen actually has an above average salary. Then there's no coincidence that the things they had to acquiesce this offseason tied directly to that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that's lost a lot of sense. I don't like them as much as the chance to be live dogs as you to outright win this. But if it was like a full 7, if you can get this at a full 7 somewhere, I still do like the 6 a little bit too. But it opened at a full 7 and got bet down. I do kind of like them to hang around, as I do think they're going to have some success offensively. Like you said, they had success as an offense with Drew Petzing. The thing my biggest concern here, though, from the betting them outright money line, is their defense is trash, and the Bills are just going to run down their throat. That's my one concern here about them outright. I don't know how the Cardinals get enough stops, but I think the Cardinals are going to move the football. It's a great story for Damar Hamlin that he's starting, but Damar Hamlin, is it a great story for the Bills? He played 18 defensive snaps last year. They have 2 new starting safeties. Matt Milano's out. I think the defensive line is still pretty solid for Buffalo. They've got a new defensive coordinator in Bobby Babich. They also are going to have a cornerback rotation. Their cornerbacks actually are pretty solid on paper. We'll see how that comes together, but they just got a lot of moving parts. And the wide receivers, right? The thing is, I don't think they're gonna have to throw a lot. That's the trickiest part with Josh Allen this week. So it's a smash spot for Josh Allen to pay up for in DFS. So you're 6-point home favorite.
He's got to run 2 touchdowns probably.
Yeah, but I think they're just gonna run all over him, though. Is the thing.
It's totally possible. I mean, I can't say I'm super up to date on the Arizona Cardinals defense. It's kind of not. I mean, it's I kind of evaluate these games by.
I mean, they have the worst pass rush in the NFL, bar none.
The Cardinals do?
Yeah.
Well, it's not good. It's not good. You definitely want to put some pressure on Josh Allen.
And they're the most passive defense, because that's Gannon style. They blitz at the lowest rate. They don't play any man coverage. They just kind of lay down and just whatever you want to run the ball.
Kind of interesting to not blitz Josh Allen. I'm going to be very interested in this game. I did bet the Arizona Cardinals money line.
Ooh, nice. I mean, listen, I don't mind the point. I think they're going to score points. It's just, can we get enough stops?
It's hard to say.
The Bills are a team, though, I want a short big picture. I think their win total under is in play. I don't think they bottom out because Josh Allen's just too good for them to bottom out. But
yeah, he's way too good.
But the division is the toughest division, the top 3, arguably, them and the AFC North. So, they might cannibalize each other.
Exactly. The Bills are going to lose at least 2 games this year that they totally should not lose because the receivers are kind of bad and Josh Allen is just going to have to scrap around the same way the Chiefs were last year, basically.
Yeah, but they did on the defense. The Chiefs had an all-time. They had the best defense Mahomes had, and we saw it again even last night. The defense is still really good.
Yeah.
So.
All right, DFS this weekend. What's your favorite stack? What are you doing? Where are you at?
Yeah, like I said, I like Commanders Bucks as my favorite kind of game. I mean, Todd Bowles is going to be blitzing off of the plane. Jaden Daniels in college, every year in college, had a scramble rate of 30% or higher against the blitz. I also think the horizontal rate is a little bit equipped to get the ball out. So I'm just excited to see that one back and forth. The Commanders have made some changes in their front 7 that I think are going to be better, but their back end still has a bunch of questions. I'm curious if Dan Quinn tries to play it as aggressively as he did in Dallas. If he does, then Mike Evans could definitely pop off. But that one looks fun to me. And it's the 4 p.m. late swapper, right? Like you get that.
The best.
I
You get the
love when your
information.
game stack is at 4 because you can make all the adjustments you need. We're going to see a lot of, hammering early of like, Jags, Dolphins, because the Jags guys are actually cheap. Like you can mix Brian Thomas Jr. in. I'm not really on Evan Ingram, but people are projecting him to be higher owned. And Bills, you'll get Bills Cardinals. That'll be game stacked as well. For sure. And Colts Texans will be game stack. Those are all early, heavy game stack games. So we're going to get the cards revealed to us. Then we can make our adjustments.
I think Stroud, Nico is my favorite play of the whole slate. That was my flag plant on the show yesterday with Jakob. So I think Nico, Stroud, and I prefer Dell to Diggs, but not like I'm going to say Diggs is a bad play. I think you could even do Schultz, and then I do like AD Mitchell as the bring back, and I like JSN a lot. At
oh yeah,
4,900.
JSN, AD Mitchell, all those guys in like that price range. We talked about Yoshivas if the Bengals guys are out.
I mean, I'm probably going to play Yoshivas even if neither of them is out, but if T is out, I'm going to guess that if T is out, Yoshivas will be like the most jammed player by the Sims. Like,
he's a guy I'll easily be happy to fade in large field tournaments though. Like as a 9-point home favorites.
Yeah.
If he's going to be that popular, I'll be happy to fade him in large field.
Do you have it in you either direction to play Chase Brown or Zach Moss in any contest?
You would play the spot.
I've taken Moss and Brown a little bit in these battle royales on Underdog, and I think I'll probably play one of them. Like I'll probably play 10 lineups in tournaments, and I will probably do one Moss, one Brown, because it's a nutted spot. I mean, it is a nutted spot.
9-point home favorites.
Yeah, it's really good. All right, Reebs, you have got to get out of here and get on the program. Tell people about Sharp Football Analysis, and we'll wrap it up. And then I will be back in 45 minutes to do the Pick'em show.
Yeah, Sharp Football Analysis. I'm writing up these games every week. I'm excited that we're going to actually have real content to talk about too. All these things that were just a lot of guesswork. Remember, there are 15 new offensive coordinators in the NFL this year. There are 17 new defensive coordinators in the NFL this year. There's a lot that's just we can't apply that happened last year to this year, even though week 1 we're trying to do our best at guesswork. But we're going to get some early cards revealed. That's what I'm looking forward to. If you do have time before Davis comes back on, I'm going to be live with Hilo at 1 Week Ceiling at noon. Where we're talking about, DFS picks and stuff like that. So definitely check that out. Look forward to our Not Financial Advice show every Friday here.
The absolute best, man. All right, let's get out of here. Everyone, make sure that you are following Reebs, checking out his work over at Sharp Football Analysis. And I will be back in 45 minutes, and we are going to do some Underdog Pick'em